Well, happy holidays to you and yours, and welcome to the Brevard Sports Network. It really is quite amazing that we are at this time of the year again where we say happy holidays. Tough to believe that tomorrow's Thanksgiving, and I hope all of you out there have a terrific and just a wonderful time with your families in Thanksgiving. Last night here on Brevard Sports Network, we released a video with head coach Billy Mims, the Florida Tech Panthers head basketball coach. And I was kind of late in releasing it. And so, therefore, some of the content in that video was behind. And that's my fault. And I assume the responsibility for that. There's other reasons to ask Coach in here today. Hopefully, this could be the start of the rejuvenation, the rebirth of the Billy Mims Show again. I've spoken to two specific sponsors, and I believe we're going to get this done. But without further ado, please help me welcome to the set here at Brevard Sports Network the head coach, my good friend, Billy Mims. Coach, how are you?
Hey, it's fantastic to be here. This is like a sports museum in here, and it's wonderful to be here with you, Alan. Again, you are one of the greatest voices in Space Coast sports. Period.
Oh, man, thank you.
You've done so much for sports on the Space Coast for young people at the high school level, at the college level, local kids that have gone on to play elsewhere, even professionally. You've covered a lot of guys that are playing in the NFL right now and so forth and so on. So, again, thanks for all you've done for sports on the Space Coast. It's an honor to be here with you.
Well, Coach, I appreciate that. And we had an opportunity to talk. And first of all, let me just say this. Coach Mims is always going to be at the top of the list, if not at the very top of the list of my favorite guests. When you interview Coach Mims, you learn about the game of basketball. You absolutely learn about it. I can't tell you the things that I've learned. I found myself sitting there, not just watching college basketball, but for 20-plus years at Sky Sports, he evaluated, broke down, and did the NBA as well, the All-Star games, the finals, all of it. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. And, Coach, I appreciate all that you've taught me and the gear, too. I mean, look, I dug this out of the closet today. Still looks great. Fits a little tighter than it did a couple of years ago, but that's all right. Coach, let's talk about your team. You have started undefeated. You're 3-0. Couple of real nice wins. Thumped on Johnson City, and then Monday night, and then you go last night. It's tough to play back-to-back games at any level, doing against anybody. But you're now 3-0, Coach. Let's start with Monday night. Kind of take us through that a little bit.
Well, Johnson University, they're a small school over in Kissimmee, and have been around for a while. They're part of a national university system, Johnson University. The main campus, I believe, is up in Tennessee.
Okay.
So there's multiple campuses around the country. It's sort of a branch school of the main campus. It's a religious university, Christian university, and a lot of great people. They're really nice folks. The athletic director there is a gentleman named Elliot Hernandez. He's been a friend of mine for a long time now. Not only the athletic director, but also the head men's basketball coach, originally from Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And played for one of my good friends who coaches collegiate basketball down in Puerto Rico. So we've had a great relationship for years. And we always try to play them at times and help them out. And they help us out by giving us a game to kind of learn a lot about our team early on, a pre-Sunshine State Conference game.
Sure.
Like, right now we're playing just like you see in college football.
Right.
You see the Alabamas take on the Chattanoogas, and they buy those games, and it's an off week, not an SEC week. And so we're right now in pre-SSC, Sunshine State Conference, and we're looking to, we buy some games and get some teams in here so that we can experiment with things. We can look at everybody on our roster. We can give everybody a chance to play. And that's the thing that's, when you play at Johnson University like that, it's just like, a Florida State, say, taking on a smaller Division II school or maybe even an NAI or D3 school. It gives you an opportunity to give everybody a well-earned opportunity to play, to get – we like to say it's one thing to be an All-American in practice. It's another thing to be an All-American with fans in the stands.
Right. That's that. Amen to that, I can tell you. And you did exactly what you want to do in a game like this, Coach. You guys executed really well. You scored over 100 points in this one, and you had some really terrific performances from some of your players. 107-46 was the final in this one. And, of course, the thing that I've noticed about last night, Monday night, your Friday night game, different guys are standing out, like Chase Thompson, Monday night, 22 points. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, Chase is a veteran player. You know,
Yeah.
he's a transfer to us, and he played Division I basketball. He's a Division I transfer. Started out at Southeast Missouri, SEMO, as we like to call it. And, you know, Chase had, you know, he played in 25 Division I games and played, you know, 12 to 15 minutes a game. So he's had good court time at the highest level you can play in this country. SEMO's certainly a high mid-major program, and they've played against really good competition. It was great to get him down here. His father's actually from Miami, Florida, and went to high school down there, played high school basketball in Miami. Believe it or not, Alan, when I was the basketball coach at Barry University.
Really?
But the first collegiate head coaching job in my career down in Miami, his dad used to come to my team camp in the summers as a member of a high school basketball program down in Miami. So kind of gone full circle. I didn't get to coach his dad. Saw his dad play a lot of high school basketball. Now I get to coach the son. But Chase is a talented young man, really good shooter, strong physical body. And, you know, he had 22 points against Johnson and only played 17 minutes.
Right.
He went 9 of 11 from the floor.
Wow.
And 4 of 6 from behind the arc. And for a 6'6", athletic, strong, stretch forward like he is, it was a really good performance. And, you know, we want to see a lot more of that from Chase.
Coach, the thing that impressed me about your team, and we were talking about, you know, Johnson University and the type of game that it is, but anytime you've got guys in your face contesting shots to shoot 67% from the floor, I say PDG. That's pretty damn good, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we've been looking for Chase. We kind of said it was a breakout game for him. He's got the capability night in and night out. He has the talent, the size, the athleticism.
No, I mean your team.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, and so we thought, you know, Chase kind of having that kind of breakout game, you know, spurred our team on to be the kind of team that we think we can be. You know, you talk about Chase's game, but Rasan Edwards.
Yep.
Rasan is a Division I transfer as well. Played 4 years of Division I basketball at South Carolina State, and he's a guy. You know, we brought him in to replace Seshaun Russell, and Seshaun's now a pro basketball player in Europe. So 2 of our seniors last year, Mekhi Noble and Seshaun Russell, are now playing professional basketball overseas and doing very well. And, you know, so we had some big shoes to fill, and we knew we needed an impact playmaker, an impact point guard. And I looked at my old home state, South Carolina.
South Carolina.
You know, found this guy in the portal, point guard, a player at South Carolina State, and then I watched some film on him knocking down threes in Rupp Arena against Kentucky and playing against Wake Forest. And then I saw him playing against South Carolina, the Gamecocks last year, and he had a tremendous game against South Carolina. I said, you know, if you can play against the SEC, you can certainly play against the SSC.
Right. Coach, congratulations on that victory. And then last night, Coach, you pick up career win 234 at Florida Tech. And that was a good one as well, Coach. 81-56 over a team out of Puerto Rico. The people are at home are looking at the stats on the screen. Kind of take us through this one a little bit.
Well, last night we had an unbelievable first half. I think it's the best first half of basketball we've played in my 19 seasons at Florida Tech. At the half, we were up 45-20.
Wow.
And, you know, we were joking with the guys, you know, in the locker room at the half saying, you know, you almost pitched a shutout there in the first half.
Right.
And what the only thing that upset us, we actually, Alan, had held them to 14 points over the first 19 minutes. We made 2 mistakes coming off the court at halftime, going into the locker room that gave Rio Piedras, University of Puerto Rico, Rio Piedras, and for the fans out there listening that, you know, are just interested in college basketball, interested in Florida Tech, Division II, Sunshine State, Florida, the people say, well, you know, who are the University of Puerto Rico teams? They have, you know, a full university system down there. lots of teams in Puerto Rico, and they actually have their own Puerto Rican University League down there, and they play for a championship. Well, the team we played last night, Rio Piedras, got to the semifinals of the Puerto Rican University Championship last year and lost out to the University of Puerto Rico by a moan.
Right. I know you played them a lot.
We do. And they went on to win the Puerto Rican Championship last year for universities. And that's our next game coming up on Friday. We'll play Bayamon. So we started off playing the two best teams in Puerto Rican college basketball. 3 of the Puerto Rican university teams belong to the NCAA Division II.
Wow.
And they're the 3 that we play regularly. Rio Piedras from last night, Bayamon coming up Friday, and Mayagüez on Saturday.
You've done a pretty good job against these teams from Puerto Rico. 19-1 all time against this team you beat last night. So, yeah, I mean, and I like the fact that they come in, and I know they enjoy coming up here, and I know you've become very good friends with many of the coaches and even some of the players that are in their system. Who stood out last night, Coach, in this one? And then I want to talk about some of these fast starts this team of yours has gotten off to, because last night was the second time you've been in double digits with the other team not even hanging a bucket. But go ahead.
Well, and you know, last night, again, we had, like you said, this year I think we have a deep team, a very talented team, but a deep team, you know, with the next man up mentality. So we're not afraid of injuries. We feel like we have the depth to cover for that. And, you know, we brought in 7 new players this year. 6 of them are transfers. So the portal has been a big factor in college basketball, college football, the NCAA transfer portal. We took advantage of that this year. Another Division I transfer, David McCullough, was the player of the game last night, and he deserved it. David McCullough last night played 23 minutes, but again, a breakout game for David McCullough. And he's from your neck of the woods, right?
Yeah.
He's from Baltimore, Maryland. He played a few years of Division II, 3 years at the Division II level first at Bowie State.
Yeah.
Had a tremendous.
That's good school.
Averaged over 14 points a game at Bowie State. Then he graduated from Bowie State, so he'd done all he could do academically there, and he still had eligibility, 2 years left, and he transferred to Morgan State and Division I program in Baltimore, Maryland. We saw him there, and he got his first graduate degree. He got a master's degree last year from Morgan State. And then guess what? He reached out. He was in the portal, and we said, you still have eligibility? Yeah, I've got 1 more year of eligibility, and I'd like to get a second master's degree.
Wow.
So he's a really high academic, focused young man on his future. He's working on his MBA this year, and by the end of this year, he'll have 2 master's degrees and an MBA from Florida Tech. Well, last night, that high academic stalwart Division I transfer went 7 of 9 from the field. He was 1 for 2 behind the arc, 4 out of 5 at the free throw line, 19 points and 9 rebounds, almost a double-double.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of the first game that we had a chance to see him because he's been suffering from a sprained wrist. So it was the first game that we had him cleared to play, and what a breakout game it was for him.
Coach, I know you like to run, and early in these games, your teams have been ultra impressive to start at. You know, in one of the games earlier, I believe it was your first game of the year. I think it was 13-0 before anybody dropped the bucket on you. Last night, I noticed it was 8-10-0. The key to these fast starts, how do you get these teams up and down the court that quick this early in the season?
That's a great question, and we really believe, you know, we pride ourselves, believe it or not. I mean, we score a lot of points, but we pride ourselves on being a great defensive team.
Right.
We believe that defense creates fast-scoring opportunities. And we look at situations. Here's a funny one for you. We talk about out-of-bounds plays and even the jump ball to start the game. For us, that's a transition moment, right? The jump ball, we have a set play on the jump ball. We scored on it last night. We won the tap. Elias Martin did a great job winning the tap, tipped it to Niall Harris. Niall shot faked on the 3 on the wing, drove past his man, racked it. We're up 2-0 right off the bat. We will shoot the 3 off the tip. We'll get to the basket and lay it in. We'll dunk it. But we're aggressive on the tip. We look at the opening tip of the game as a fast break opportunity. Every time the ball goes out of bounds, we want to score from an inbounds play, not just get the ball inbounds. So we look at those plays as fast break opportunities. We're looking to be an aggressive offensive team, but it begins with what we do on defense. And, okay, the first tip of the play, we're not on defense yet.
Right.
But after that, everything, when we score on that play, we've got momentum, we've got confidence, enthusiasm. We're going to get back and defend and get a stop and score, stops and scores.
I love it. And I watched Kale. He pulled the highlights for me today from your game Monday and last night. And so when you started talking about that play,
It's the first play.
Hey, you're doing a great job there.
he knows.
Look, I try to stay around.
Here with Florida Tech Panther head basketball coach Billy Mims. And, those fast starts are impressive. Coach, your next, you got this Thanksgiving tournament coming up here down in West Palm. And then we get into conference play. It looks like your next 2 home games coming up November 28th at home against Rollins, and then December 2nd at home against St. Leo University. The information is there on the screen. Coach, the transition from these games to conference, it's like flipping a switch.
Well, it is. And I want to rewind for just a second because I was sitting there thinking as you were going over those fast starts.
Yeah.
I looked at something today, and I told our team about this. We had an exhibition. We challenged our team really good. We had 2 exhibitions going in.
Right.
To the we had an exhibition against Bethune-Cookman, and right after we played, Reggie Theus, ex-NBA player, is a coach at Bethune. We had a great, game, evenly balanced game there against Division I. Reggie came over afterwards. He said, Coach, he said, I tell people all the time the Sunshine State Conference is Division I basketball. He said, we just had a great game here at Bethune, and you look Division I, and you've got us ready. They went on after us, and their next game, an exhibition against another Division I, they beat Florida Gulf Coast at Gulf Coast, right? And then how about this? Then we go to Stetson, and we play in Donnie Jones, one of my another good friends. Used to be the head coach at University of Central Florida, UCF. Used to be an assistant at Florida under Billy Donovan. So Donnie and I go way back, and we go over and play Stetson, and they're predicted to be a really good ASUN team this year.
Yeah, they are.
Well, we opened up the game at Stetson 11-2 up. Donnie had to call the first time out.
Right.
We had a couple mistakes at the end of the half, went into the locker room 11 down, and we started the second half on a 13-2 run there. So the fast starts have been really good for us. And then I said to our guys, look, we could have beaten Stetson at Stetson. We made some mistakes at the end of the game, but again, we've got 7 new players we're trying to get into the mix who've never played in this system, never played for me, never played with each other. And yet I turned around today when we walked in, I said, guys, you realize Stetson just won the Beach Slam tournament in Daytona this week. They beat the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee by 18. And I reminded them, I said, Donnie Jones said to us right after the game, he said, hey, this is going to get us ready for the ASUN because you look like you belong in the ASUN. So, again, people need to understand that Division II basketball in Florida, the Sunshine State Conference, is the same. It equates to a league that's low mid-major to high mid-major Division I caliber of play.
And one of the things I didn't tell you about this, but I want to have a conversation today about that and how in the portal and the reason that it is like that, because it used to be, you and I have had discussions over the years about this very thing, and we could see this coming at this level, certainly could see this coming at this level, but now we're also starting to see it in football as well. Look how many teams, who was the team, what was it, Texas, what team paid to have their butts whipped at home from the SEC? It was just recently. I think it happened last Saturday. Texas A&M or the Aggies. Caleb will look it up, but they paid $1.5 million.
New Mexico went in and beat Auburn.
That's right. That's what it was.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
New Mexico goes in and beats Auburn.
Absolutely.
Takes their bag and goes home.
How about a year ago? A year ago, Liberty went to Arkansas and beat the Razorbacks. And now Liberty's head coach is in the SEC.
Right, exactly.
He was auditioning for a job, right?
Right. Well, he was a D2 runner-up last year.
Absolutely.
So, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Coach, great atmosphere there, and this is always a special week, I know, because I know what Thanksgiving means to you. I know what your family means to you. And I know now that you're going to be alternating this tournament. Well, do you get to enjoy Thanksgiving at home before you have to go there?
Well, it's a lonely Thanksgiving this year, I guess you
Oh,
could say.
no.
Because it's my wife and I, we're on our own.
Right.
Because all of our kids are grown now, they're adults now. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
Right now, as a matter of fact, I have to give a quick shout out to Callie.
Okay.
Who's about to be Dr. Callie Mims.
Right.
Working on her PhD at the University of South Alabama, which is also another tie-in because last night, Lynn University from the Sunshine State Conference played mid-major South Alabama at South Alabama. Back and forth, nail-biter throughout the game. Ended up 74-62 to South Alabama. But Lynn was knocking on the door throughout the game. So, again, there's a sign.
Right.
I actually tried to get South Alabama to play us instead of Lynn. I reached out to them multiple times because my daughter Callie's there.
Right.
Hey, let's go play a Division I game on the road where my daughter can come see me play. South Alabama said no to us and ended up playing Lynn, and Lynn pushed them right to the limit. So I guess they're probably also saying, well, we're glad we didn't take Florida Tech up on that game.
Because they definitely would have pushed us.
We might would have beaten them.
Yeah.
So, but again, Callie and my parents right now are listening to the show in South Carolina. She's gone up there to have Thanksgiving with her grandparents.
Fantastic.
Because she'll be spending Christmas with us. And obviously my daughter Courtney's in Arkansas,
Right.
covering all things Arkansas Razorbacks. And my son is at UCF now and having Thanksgiving with his girlfriend's family in Orlando. So from that standpoint, they're all out there. I'm sure at some point we'll FaceTime them all, but it'll be the quietest Thanksgiving for Lynn and I.
Wow.
At home. And my wife makes a wonderful turkey and people say, but your wife's from England.
Right.
People forget they don't have Thanksgiving in England, which I'm a little upset about. Because remember, the people there was no America when the first Thanksgiving.
Correct.
They were English
Settlers.
Pilgrims. Pilgrims.
Right.
Here,
Where'd they come from? The Mayflower, the Pinta Maria, the Santa Maria.
And they weren't Americans yet.
Right.
They were still citizens of Great Britain. So why is it not a British and American holiday?
Well, Coach, I would only venture a guess to say that at that particular time, and 125 years later, England would be none too happy with us.
They don't like talking about Thanksgiving.
No, to this day.
You know what? Because we lost. They lost the colonies.
They always revert the conversation to the French at that point.
But you know what? They do turkey and dressing at Christmas in England. So it's kind of when we would say it's Thanksgiving, turkey and dressing.
Right.
My wife goes, that's Christmas in England.
Right.
I always have turkey and dressing. So when I lived in England and coached professionally over there and met my wife, we were always doing turkey and dressing at Christmas. And I was thinking, Christmas feels like Thanksgiving.
Right.
So then my wife started saying, well, we're going to do it twice a year. So we do turkey and dressing at Thanksgiving and at Christmas.
What's your go-to on the plate Thursday? What's obviously we're going to eat turkey, obviously dressing. But what's that favorite side of yours?
Well, it's so many, It's like I like the sweet potatoes,
Right,
and I like
they
that.
got to be done right.
Got to be done right, but
Yeah.
I like bean casserole is also
that's
nice.
good. They got to be crunchy
I
with
like
the
that.
French onion
Ooh,
chips.
I
on
like
top.
that.
Yeah.
I like that's very good.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tough.
Do you
but
consider macaroni and cheese?
no, no. The answer's no. Don't even have to go any farther. Macaroni and cheese is like something you put in the microwave.
Right, no, I
it's
hear
like
you.
I'm sorry.
The younger generation, I'll go down to MCC and Coco on Thursday to do our Thanksgiving morning practices, and I will ask all of the student athletes what their favorite side is for Thanksgiving. Inevitably, Coach, they make me feel old because they all say either their mother or their grandmother's macaroni and cheese, and all of the coaches will say the turkey or the dressing. So there's definitely a generational gap as it pertains to mac and cheese.
Well, I'm going to tell you, too, my wife does dressing. Here's something else that's important, okay? So actually my favorite thing about Thanksgiving and Christmas in my household is my wife's dressing,
Got
right?
you.
Because a lot of people in America tend to just put it in a plate and bake it in the oven kind
Right.
of thing. My wife does it traditional, stuffs the bird, front, back.
That's rare anymore.
It's stuffed in the bird. Where you get the turkey juices in there.
Yeah.
You know, her dressing is the best on the planet. And you know what? A little bit of brown gravy on top of that turkey and dressing. And
it hits
the dressing.
just right.
So it's the dressing, but there's a close second runner-up.
Are you a fan of the fact that the NFL is playing a Sunday night game and a Black Friday game?
Yeah, I agree. We should have, on all those kind of holidays, people should get what they want to see. And, of course, the NFL is still king on the airwaves.
They want to see.
So it's what people want to see. I think they should. But, hey, I got to say this real quick.
Yeah, sure.
My other go-to thing before we finish the Thanksgiving meal, because I'm a Southern boy,
No,
you know.
that's good.
So you got to go to dessert.
Right.
And in the South,
Oh, no.
it's pecan pie, baby.
Pecan, I love pecan
pie.
pie. He can't stand it.
Listen, when it comes to desserts, I'm a kid. I'm a piece of chocolate cake, and you know what? I'm happy.
Hey,
And
pecan pie, man, that is
cool,
so nice, man.
A cool dab of whipped cream on top of that pecan pie, and it's perfect.
I tell you what's really nice. Put a little Haagen-Dazs vanilla ice cream with the pecan pie.
Oh, no.
And a little bit of Hershey's chocolate sauce on top. That might top a
This
slice
will.
of chocolate cake anytime.
This will be the last time I ever wear this shirt again because I am going to go get some Haagen-Dazs. I like that. Here with head coach Billy Mims from the Florida Tech Panthers. Please tell, everyone that I said happy Thanksgiving. Tonight, what is it? Be careful. By the way, be careful out there tonight. I know a lot of you go out the night before Thanksgiving. Be careful out there tonight. Coach, I want to ask you because we talk and we just spent 5 minutes talking about how much better the competition is now in Division II basketball. Take us through, because I still think to many it's a mystery how this portal works. How do you go get a guy in the portal?
Well, and right now the two biggest changes, and you know this as well as anybody, but the two biggest changes to the scene of college basketball are the transfer portal, because it's just opened up a can of worms.
Right.
That players now, hey, they can go and they're eligible right away and they can put their name in the transfer portal and off they go, right? And there's also this thing called NIL.
Right.
Name, image, and likeness. And you got college football players now making more money than the head coaches.
Unbelievable.
And, it's like Spencer Rattler at South Carolina, is making millions representing this car dealership there. And he's making more money right now at South Carolina than he could if he were in the NFL.
Yeah. Why go get beat up?
Why have to go there? Stay in college.
Did you see? Remember Mike DeLello?
Yeah.
Okay, Mike spent his freshman year at Florida Tech, and
Yep,
when the program shut down, signed an NIL deal with McDonald's. I saw his first local McDonald's commercial, and it was great. Go ahead.
Well, and you asked about the portal,
Yeah.
right? So the process with the portal is this. So the NCAA said, we got to give these kids, and quite honestly, probably the way it should be, but the kids have all the power now, okay? Students in colleges and universities, these student athletes, these scholar athletes, as we like to call them at Florida Tech, they're the ones with the power. They have the biggest voice in the game right now, is what they are saying. The NCAA is listening to those voices, and that's what's brought about the portal and opened up transfer and made it more easier for players to move around, because before players would go in and try to honor their commitments,
Right.
but sometimes they'd get pushed out by coaches.
Yep.
Or they would get mistreated by programs and not given the opportunities that they were promised. So the NCAA said, you know what? These kids, if they're not being treated properly and they don't like where they are and they want to go somewhere else, let's give them that right. Let's make this experience, the student-athlete experience, the best it can possibly be. The only way to do that is give them more freedom.
Right.
So they open up this transfer portal, and it's an interesting thing. Because what happens is the young people who want to go into the portal, they have to go to the compliance officer at their university. They sit down with compliance, say, hey, I'd like to transfer. I'd like to, or at least think about transferring. They don't, just because they go in the portal, they don't have to.
Right.
I'd like to think about transferring. I'd like to put my name in the portal. So they have to watch a video. They have to, understand everything about the little short video the NCAA produces. So now they tick a box. I've watched the video. Yes, I'd like to be in the portal. They fill out some paperwork with compliance, and compliance will enter them into the transfer portal. Once they are, we as coaches on the NCAA at all levels have access to the portal. We then can go in, and our assistant coaches spend a lot of time
I'll bet.
going up and down the portal to see whose names are in there.
Right.
And all of a sudden, sometimes you see a kid from like one of your own conference schools. Say, wow, look, they're going to lose. Nova Southeastern won the national championship in Division II college basketball last year. They went 36-0. We were the closest team in America to beating them.
Right.
We took them to overtime on their floor in the semifinals of the Sunshine State Conference Tournament.
Right.
No one came that close. We're the only team they didn't beat in regulation.
Right.
No one else took them to overtime.
Right.
So they beat everybody else in regulation. They couldn't beat us for 40 minutes on their floor at the end of the season. So, but here's the interesting thing. When they won that national championship, their starting five and their best sub all entered the portal, all left Nova Southeastern.
They all go D1?
R.J. Sunahara, who was the Sunshine State Conference Player of the Year last year, he now plays for the Georgia Bulldogs.
Right.
Okay? Their stretch four, who I thought was probably one of the young, up-and-coming best players in our league, he transferred Division I. He's at Memphis playing for Penny Hardaway. Their little point guard, Dallas Graziani.
Okay.
I don't know if you even saw this. You got to look it up when you get a chance. I'm sure you'll check it out right away, right? But you got to look this up because it was fabulous, right? He transferred to Samford University in Birmingham, Alabama.
Right.
Small Division I, Samford University. Guess who they played the other day?
Who?
They played Purdue.
Oh.
One of Purdue's early season bye games, right? They played Purdue. That means Zach Eddy, who's 7'4".
Right.
So for a week going into that game, the head coach at Samford was putting videos out on social media trying to teach Dallas Graziani, who's their starting point guard now, who's all of 5'7", I believe.
Yeah, he's small.
Tiny, right? And 5'7" against 7'4". And they said, so we have to figure this up. How many inches do we need Dallas to grow, and as far as his vertical jump, right, to win the tap? And he said, oh, we've got 7 days to get so many inches. And every day, look, we got a drill. We're going to do this drill for Dallas on stealing the tap, winning the tap. So every day they would do something different. And when the game started, they sent Dallas Graziani to jump center against Zach Eddy.
I gotta see that.
Against 5'7". Needless to say, Dallas didn't win the tap.
Right.
But look at the way they marketed that, and look at how social media picked up on
and blew it.
The smallest guy in Division I college basketball against the tallest guy. And where did he get his start? Winning a national championship in the SSC with Nova Southeastern.
Well, you coached the tallest guy to ever play basketball.
I
right?
did. The
Paul
tallest
Sturgis.
college basketball player in the world.
Yeah, that's wild. You a fan of this portal?
Yeah, I think I am. I
Yeah.
think I am because now there's goods and bads to it.
Sure.
Okay. We can also lose players. We lost one of our best players last year, Sean Halp.
Yeah.
Who felt like he'd done all he could do at the Division II level. He transferred to us from Division I. He became one of the best shooters in the nation.
He's a good player.
A fantastic player, right? And at the end of the year, he had 1 year of eligibility left. And remind you, he already graduated from Florida Tech.
Right.
He was working on his master's. So instead of saying, well, let me get 2 degrees from Florida Tech, let me play my last year somewhere else and get a master's degree but I'll go back to Division I. So he went to William and Mary.
Nice. That's good. That's a great school.
Great school academically,
Yeah.
beautiful part of the country.
Yeah.
He's starting for William and Mary right now, and he's their leading scorer so far.
Wow. Can't argue
so
that.
there you go again. I said, well, we trained up another one there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's you did you see it?
I'm still looking.
Yeah, you'll find it, I'm sure. Coach, I guess I want to ask you, obviously, Brevard County and the liberal transfer policy. It's hard to keep up with which kid is going where. But now the Florida High School Athletic Association is entertaining the thought of NIL at the high school level. Georgia recently passed it. Alabama, I believe, has it. California. I mean, there are 33 states in the country where name, image, and likeness is legal for high school students. They can't use the school logo. They can't use the school colors. But nonetheless, they're going to have an opportunity to make money. What are your thoughts on high school students in NIL?
Well, again, they're not full adults yet. That's one thing, They're in high school. They're all living at home with mom and dad. They're not attending a university where all their friends have, are going out every night and driving
Right.
in mom and dad's car or whatever. When you're away at a university, you do have expenses outside of room, board, books, tuition, and fees.
Right.
And I think in kids playing college basketball or college football do not have time to go to class, study, and compete at a high level of collegiate athletics, so they can't really get jobs. Like a lot of college students go in their study, but when they're not studying, they get a job.
Right.
And therefore they make money and they can do things. College athletes really don't have that opportunity. They're focused so much on their academics and getting better in their sports, they can't go get a job.
No.
So name, image, and likeness has opened a door for them. For the high school kids, on the other hand, they wake up in the morning and mom wakes them up and then cooks them breakfast and sends them off to school. And they come back home and they have dinner at home every night. And I'm not necessarily, and high school sports don't go year round like college sports.
Right.
You have less, your practice season is a lot less. Your games are a lot less. You play less games. You have less, the season is shorter.
You're encouraged to play multiple sports.
You're encouraged to
Right.
play multiple sports, but if you don't,
Right.
you certainly have time to go out and get a job.
Right.
So I'm not 100% sold on it for high school kids.
Right.
But at the same time, some kids in a poverty type situation might benefit from it.
It's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity. So at the end of the day, now here's the one thing again, you got to be careful, Alan, because all this big talk about the guys making the big bucks, there's only a few of those, right? There's so many guys out there say, I want an NIL, but never make a dime.
Right.
It's again, you have to know how to market yourself. And you got to put some work in it.
Yeah, because you can't use the school to do it.
No.
Yeah.
And you can't just sit back and say, hey, I'm available, NIL, who wants to sponsor me?
Watch me run for a touchdown. Doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work
Shoot
like
a three.
that.
Yeah. Finishing up here with head coach Billy Mims. And, Coach, I always want to get your take on the NBA. Because I just – have you had a chance to watch any of this?
I have. You know me. I'm a basketball junkie.
I
actually went to an NBA game with my son Josh and his girlfriend and my wife, and we got, for the first time, I got the royal box treatment. Dinner before the game, with the box seat holders, sat in the box for the game, had a TV in the box sitting right in front of me.
Where was this, Orlando?
Orlando.
Okay.
And watching Georgia Bulldog football while I'm watching the Magic on the court in front of me. I got the Georgia Bulldogs on the TV. We're playing Ole Miss. I was watching the Ole Miss Georgia game.
Can't beat that.
So yes, I'm
What
still.
do you think of Orlando? They're young, they're dynamic. Paulo Banchero, they're 9-5, 8-5, 9-5 now. They're not 1-8 to start a season. They've gotten off to a really good start here. What's your take on them?
They may be the best young, talented team in the league. And I don't say that lightly.
Well,
okay?
I know you don't.
Paulo Banchero is an incredible player. Was Rookie of the Year last year.
Yeah.
Certainly, already started off this season. Hit a game winner one night. Has already hit a game winner on the buzzer kind of play with seconds left to win the game on the road for them. That wasn't at home. Big win against Chicago, I believe, in Chicago. Big win. They jump on Banchero's back and ride, but they got talent. I mean,
yeah, they do.
Suggs is an incredible young guard as well. I like their Franz Wagner and Mo Wagner, the brothers.
Yeah.
And look what they achieved in the summer playing for Germany.
Yes.
In the World Championships. So, I mean, they got international kids. And also I like the fact Jonathan Isaac is back and healthy for a change and playing better basketball for them. And look at one more thing. They got Grandpa coming off the bench, who started out west for an NBA franchise for years and years. Australian player who is one of the best shooters in the NBA, has been for many years now. Smart, and he's been a starter like throughout his career. The trades have brought him to Orlando, coming off the bench, bringing veteran maturity and smart NBA know-how.
He can teach.
I'm telling you, they've got a combination. And Mose is a good basketball coach.
And yes, he is. And of course, the Celtics 11-3, the Bucks 10-4, the Sixers 10-4. We'll see. The Heat are always in the mix. In the Western
Sixers coached by my old buddy Nick Nurse.
Nick Nurse, yes, sir. I like it. Nick Nurse. won that NBA championship up in Toronto.
I've coached against Nick Nurse a lot in my
Yeah.
career, so we go way back.
Out west, you've got coach. You've got Minnesota sitting on top at 10-3.
Well, and
Timberwolves have enough.
They have another good friend of mine there, Chris Finch.
Chris Finch, yes.
And I coached against Chris in England for over a decade. So I've actually been in Wembley Arena in front of 20,000 people live on BBC television, national television, in a championship final against Chris Finch. He was the hot favorite to win. We were not. We won the game anyway. We came back to win the game in the second half. And so, again, like, I enjoy the NBA because it's great basketball.
But you've coached against a lot of these
I know
guys.
a lot of the guys in the NBA, the coaching fraternity there, good people. I know Mose. I've been over and watched practices in Orlando. So I love the NBA, but I love the game of basketball worldwide.
I watched your thing the other night when I was editing your video on Sky Sports and your breakdown of the finals. And I don't know who your co-host was sitting next to you, but he was just, you totally just stunned him into oblivion. He had nothing else he could say or add because you had hit the point so fluently and beautifully that it was okay. Off to a commercial. They didn't even go to him because he couldn't. I mean, you nailed it. I wanted to ask you about Minnesota. They got enough? Gobert, Edwards, and company. Is that enough?
They got a good team. I like what Chris has done there and how he's put them together. And he's a good basketball coach. He's offensively. He's one of the geniuses in the NBA. You know, when he was an assistant, he started out as an assistant with the Houston Rockets. He was the offensive coordinator for the Rockets. Then he was the offensive coordinator for the Denver Nuggets. Then he was the offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And finally, somebody said, you know what? You know, we need this guy to be a head coach. He's done a great job and worked his way up. And now he's finally, when he first got to Minnesota, he didn't have the pieces. And he had to fix some problems. Now I think he's got some really nice pieces to play with. They've got some veteran leadership that's pretty good. They've got some youth that's pretty good. And he's doing a great job with his system, getting players that fit his system real well. So I think they've got a chance to be a factor.
I wanted to end with this. Recently, the general passed away, Bobby Knight. And love him or hate him, and I loved him. I absolutely loved Bobby Knight. Matter of fact, over the summer, as we were driving around to the various Little League events and things across the state that we handle, I re-listened to John Feinstein's book about the season on the brink that he spent with Bobby Knight. It is a terrific, it's just as good today as it was when I read it 20 years ago. Any thoughts on the general and what he meant to the game and how you felt about the way he coached his players?
Well, I'll say three things. Number one, he was such an influence on the game. He's influenced so many coaches who went on to be great coaches in the game and started most of their learning from Bobby Knight.
Right.
Just a great influence on the game. And people always talked about his defense because he played nothing but man-to-man defense. But it was also his offense because he taught people how to move without the basketball. He was a great teacher of the game, both offensively and defensively. Second thing about him, you talk about Feinstein's book about him, right? And you talk about, season on the brink
right.
and spending a year. He's also the influence for Nick Nolte's role in Blue Chips.
Correct.
Nick Nolte spent a season with Bobby Knight trying to understand how to be that coach in Blue
right.
Chips. Also, when you talk about, there's still the big story about him in Puerto Rico, and
that mess down there.
Trying to throw a cop in a trash can in Puerto Rico, and you got the vision of him throwing a chair across the court,
right.
in Bloomington, Indiana.
I always loved his explanation for that about his sweater, about how he didn't have a chair for his sweater or something.
Yeah.
But it was great. Go ahead.
But love him or hate him, as you said, he was a great coach. He was a great influence on many more great coaches. And the funny thing when people ask about, well, what do you think about the way he coached his players? Today, Bobby Knight would not be well liked, period.
No,
because
he
of his
couldn't coach
style,
today.
okay? Of how he treated people, right? But he was a passionate guy who always, and he had that military background. He was a military, a Marine drill sergeant type coach. My way or the highway. You tear down people to build them up. That's the philosophy of the United States Marine Corps.
Right.
You tear someone down to build them up
He
into
certainly
what you
tore him
want
down,
them to
Coach.
be. And here's my point on that, Alan, is that, a lot of coaches were like Bobby Knight back in the day.
Right.
Right? Society has changed. Young people have changed. The world has changed. And again, social media and the internet's been a big part of that. So a lot of the things that Knight did behind closed doors back in the day never made it out to the public.
Right.
Or he'd have been under a lot more fire, a lot more pressure maybe
Sure.
early on. But today, nothing is held, it's all released to the public. And I think that you have to remember times have changed. Does that mean he was right in what he did back then? For that time, maybe yes. For today's time,
No.
certainly not.
Yeah, no, that's well said, Coach. And if you've ever read or listened to the book Season on the Brink, he forever hated John Feinstein to the day he died because he thought he was getting a different book. And if and I've actually had the great privilege of my life to interview John Feinstein once. I did it about 5 years ago. And I think the thing about John is you got to believe John, because if you read his books and know his books, John wasn't going to go in there and write a book that contained anything other than what he saw and what the truth was. So I don't know what Knight was even thinking about that. And, I think the other thing that needs to be pointed out about Bobby Knight was his heart. He never wanted you to know, but he had a heart of gold for a lot of people.
Listen, no matter how he treated people,
Yeah.
he got emotional. He was
Yeah, he
very
did. Oh,
passionate,
yes, he
very
was.
emotional, right? He never meant to actually hurt people, by what he said or what he did, but it was his fire, his passion.
He was probably, if you're looking for the definition of a narcissist, Bobby Knight is it. I don't know any other way to put it, Coach. He was a great coach who was a great narcissist.
Well, and I stick back to what I said. I think he would have been a fantastic United States Marine drill
Absolutely.
sergeant. He would have taken boys that got their head shaved and walked in, and he would have turned them into unbelievable men.
No.
So look at it. I think here's the last thing I'll say about it. I think he always thought that I'm going to recruit guys who can take what I bring. If they can't take what I bring, they're not going to be the men, the boys that I'm going to turn into men that I want to coach. They don't belong here. And the funny thing is, here's the funny thing. So there's a lot of guys who played for him to this day, love him dearly, and credit all of their success in life to Bobby Knight.
Yeah.
When I was coaching in England, the Manchester Giants, the general manager of the Manchester Giants at the time was a guy named Scott May. And you might remember Scott May played on that undefeated Indiana Hoosier basketball team that won the national championship.
86.
And I remember talking to Scott May many times about Bobby Knight. He never had an unkind word for Bobby Knight. He credited Bobby for a lot of his success in the world today. So you had that. You had the guys who went there, took whatever Bobby Knight threw at them, and used it to become the men they are today. And you also had the people like incredibly successful, Larry Bird,
Right.
who went to Indiana. People
Couldn't
forget
hack it.
that. Couldn't take it.
No.
Didn't last a semester.
No, he didn't.
At Indiana, left and became a legend, Larry Legend, at Indiana State.
Isaiah Thomas could take it.
Right up the road, and he went from Indiana State to the Boston Celtics as a legend, Larry Legend. But playing for Bobby Knight was not right. And I still to this day say, had Larry have stayed there, he would not have had the career in basketball.
I agree with that 100,000%, if that's even possible. I totally agree with that. And look, Steve Alford, guys like that. Steve Alford's a great coach. And my whole thing with Knight was, you're right. He couldn't do that. He couldn't coach today. He just couldn't do it. And for years, he tore Mike Krzyzewski up. Krzyzewski was devastated for years because Knight wouldn't talk to him. For what? For nothing, right? But Coach, I know I always like to, hopefully moving forward as we do this, I will give you the floor here. That's your camera. What would you like to say as we end today?
Well, listen, it's Thanksgiving tomorrow, and Thanksgiving is a point in my life that I always like to look at and say, you know, I think to me, it's the best holiday there is, really, because it's a day, no matter what religion you are, no matter what background you are, what heritage you are, all of us have something to be thankful for. And I like to have a holiday that says, take a few minutes today and think about what you have to be thankful for. Give thanks, because we can all give thanks for something in our lives. And I think that's the beauty of Thanksgiving. Forget about all the history of how it came about and everything, and anything that you might want to think controversial about today. I coach college basketball right now at a global university with a very international flavor to our basketball team. And those guys ask me all the time, Coach, what is Thanksgiving? We're not American. We don't even know what this is. And I said, it's a very simple holiday where some people were so thankful that they survived a very harsh winter in a new world. They decided we've got to give thanks. And that has lasted for generation after generation after generation. All of us know there's something to be thankful for tomorrow. Take a few moments, close your eyes, give thanks for what you have to be thankful.
Always well said. I don't give the floor to many as we close out the broadcast, but nobody better than Coach Billy Mims. I want to thank Caleb for getting all of this set up, and of course Coach Billy Mims. And Coach, we're going to talk is we'll get him back in here next week, and we'll get this Billy Mims show thing rolling, because I enjoy my time with Coach, and I enjoy these conversations. See, it's not always going to be just about Florida Tech basketball. Coach Mims and I will talk about anything. I promise you. When this guy's done coaching, guys like Mark Moses, myself, we're all in trouble, because if this guy ever decides to take his own talk show somewhere, we'll all be done. So for head coach Billy Mims, for Caleb Brown, I'm Alan Slaughter-Zinski. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you again tomorrow morning at 9:15